Hey everybody, this is Matt Steigerwald from Rapid Creek Cidery, chef over there, and this is another episode of Pollinate. You might be used to seeing Paul Rash host these. Today we wanted a much younger host, so I'm doing it. And I'm here with Sam Charles and Phoebe Charles, who own and opened a Rodina restaurant in Cedar Rapids, one of my favorite places around. So welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I just wanted to first introduce you guys in terms of the past, because I knew both of your sets of parents before I knew you. Mm-hmm. That was probably in the early 2000s.
Yep.
We used to buy vegetables from Bart, Phoebe's dad, and Sam's parents came in to the restaurant a lot, to the Lincoln Cafe a lot. And so I had this history with both of you that I didn't even know. You guys were probably 1 year old when that happened. But it was always they were some of my favorite people to see to come in the restaurant. And so it's just really exciting to see the next generation do that, be part of this food community. So can you tell us a little bit about Rodina, when you opened, just a basic kind of bio?
Sure. So Rodina opened January 23rd, 2019. Sam and I had moved back to Iowa from Denver, Chicago previously, because we wanted to open a restaurant. We enjoyed Denver, but there were a lot of things that didn't feel quite right. One of the biggest things was affordability.
Yeah.
So us having a family infrastructure here too was really important.
Right.
So we kind of came back and got to work immediately, and we're lucky enough to land a space that had previously been a restaurant. So build out was all pretty much aesthetic at that point, and very minor infrastructural. And
wasn't one of your family involved with designing it? Maybe Sam?
Yeah. So actually, we were lucky enough that my older brother, the middle of the three of us, was working as a graphic designer based out of interior designer based out of New York City, and it was an amazing opportunity. Both him and I took such different career paths that this was something that just kind of fell into our laps, that he was able to come and be a part of it and bring a certain professional eye that Phoebe and I just weren't going to have. And it was actually pretty spectacular because, we articulated what we want, and a lot of that was a feeling. And he was able to take that feeling, and he was able to take and create something that was so much more than what we'd originally had in our mind.
Well, the space itself is so comfortable. I mean, you walk in there and you just feel so at ease. The blue and white tiles, I mean, I feel like if I'm ever stressed, I can just imagine those tiles and I feel calm. To me, it almost feels like a Greek ocean sort of, real open space. I just love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you say you went over real quick, that it was not hard to do, but I'm sure there were hurdles. Did you guys face any kind of hurdles with the neighborhood or the city or the people?
Yeah. Where do we begin? I mean, I think we've been really blessed all around, to have made it to where we are, to open. I think we opened pretty much on time, which is very uncommon, I think, for restaurants. We were roughly a month late, but it was, what we projected is what we were able to do. That said, I mean, so the building we took over, the previous landlord was maybe not the most by the book individual.
Do you have the whole building is yours?
Yeah. Yep.
You didn't buy the building? You didn't?
No. Our landlord is amazing. She bought up all of the previous landlord's properties in the Czech Village, which was 8 properties, because she has such a personal vested interest in the community. Her growing up in Cedar Rapids and around the Czech Village, her family owning property in that neighborhood when she was a kid. So she's been outstanding. But yes, there were some things maybe that weren't legal that we had to go in and fix.
That she was doing? Or?
No.
The previous.
I see.
The previous.
I see.
So, like, for instance,
they definitely skated on some.
They had like a floor sink right underneath the electrical
Was it a
panels.
restaurant before?
Yeah, it was.
So plumbing directly under electrical,
Oh, nice.
which I just don't know
Yeah.
how that was
Yeah.
allowed.
Right, right.
And we were, I think, also really lucky to have a really amazing contractor who knows so many people in the community,
Yeah.
knows so many people in the city and county, and also was really by the book.
Yeah.
So he made sure we did everything we needed to, but also made it a lot easier than
Yeah.
I'll think
Yeah.
a lot of other
Well, and it
contractors.
is.
That's great.
And to note, the space that we took over was actually the first space that we looked at. And when we saw it, we actually initially really hated it. And one of those reasons is that the space itself has 2 entrances.
Right.
And the flow of people coming into the restaurant was really important to us. So that was immediately something that kind of turned us off by it. And without going into too much detail, the landlord was not somebody we wanted to represent us in the community.
Sure.
And so we actually moved on, and we were in discussions, we were in lease negotiations. We actually already had city approved designs for a completely different space that was a blank slate. They didn't even have concrete on the floor.
In Czech Village?
In
yeah,
the Czech
just
Village.
around the corner.
Right, it's actually to the building that's directly to the right of the cottage.
Czech Cottage.
Czech Cottage.
Yeah.
And we actually really enjoyed the landlord of that space. Super sweet man. But the second that we actually got, before pen was on paper, we got the tip off that our now current landlord was buying the property. And
thankfully our realtor was like personal friends with her kid.
They grew up with a kid.
So he was like, hey, this might be happening. And
Yeah.
then I think he was a little annoyed that we were making this switch so late in the game.
But you know, it's a long-term decision. You got
But
to, you have
I
to-
think he is
One,
in full support.
You
of
know,
the
and
decision.
for us, we did lose out on some money because we had architectural fees and all this stuff. But when we looked at the price comparison of moving into a space that had a walk-in, that had a hood vent, that had ADA,
that's always
bathrooms,
helpful.
it was
to have
just
that stuff put out.
it was better for us to take the hit on the first space and move into the next
for
one.
sure.
Oh yeah, we
For
saved
sure.
way more than what we lost.
Yes, way more. And then having my brother as the professional, we were really able to all put our heads together and figure out how do we create a space that feels comfortable walking in from this entrance, or this entrance.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of renewal of Czech Village? I think maybe there's people in Iowa City are seeing this who don't really even know what that is.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's a great neighborhood. It has a great history, and there's a big revitalization going on there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Cedar Rapids, and honestly, I spent so little time in the Czech Village as a kid. I think it was, even then, like, I don't know if it was like sort of hokey or just not.
It was just outdated, really.
Yeah, super outdated.
Really needed some young energy and money to come to it.
Totally.
I think. Yeah.
So the 2008 flood, I know a lot of people had to leave. A lot of businesses had to leave, and a lot of opportunists came in and snatched up a lot of property. Maybe not necessarily the best culture for the area, but I think they got some movement going. I think that was like maybe a little different era of the Czech Village that some people really enjoyed. Some people were like, I still don't really want to go down there. It's not super savory, if you will.
Yeah. Yep.
And then just, I think, you know, when we moved back, it was late 2017, and we saw that area and saw it has so much potential.
Yeah.
Already down there was Lion Bridge Brewery.
Oh, right. Lion Bridge was early.
Yeah, I think what are they, 6 years old now? 6 or 7?
I think so.
And then Found Informed, which is a really cool consignment shop. We really loved their vision and their vibe. You know, we like some of the older antique places. Those are great. I think those people really care about what's going on in the neighborhood.
Well, it really connects to generations.
Totally.
Because some of those people that have those old businesses, those businesses have been in the family for a long, long time.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
absolutely.
having those businesses stay, but
Yeah.
also having you guys come in
Yeah.
is a great connection.
Well, and when we moved back to Iowa, we were fully set on moving to Des Moines.
Oh, really?
The Denver Des Moines connection is really prevalent, and there's a lot. We even had professional connections to really introduce us to the food world there rather quickly, but we kept, we started doing trips down there. The idea was that we were going to move back and we were going to spend Thanksgiving and Christmas with our families here in Cedar Rapids, and then we were going to move. And we started doing these trips to Des Moines, and just the more that we went to Des Moines, the more it didn't feel right. And a lot of what Des Moines has almost mirrored what Denver felt like years and years ago. So there is this momentum, but and no disrespect, but they kind of have a chip on their shoulder. Of course, Des Moines is the best food city because
Right.
it's Des Moines.
Right.
And that was a sentiment that we were fully aware of in Denver.
Yeah.
Of course, we're the best food town, because
Sure.
we're like,
Yeah.
and Iowa City, which we had both lived before, it's so dictated by the university and the influx of students and the deflux of students. And the food scene there almost has a reset button because every single year they lose thousands of people and they get thousands of new people. So there doesn't have to be necessarily this huge momentum because they don't necessarily have to secure their business.
There's also, I think, in Iowa City, because I live in Mount Vernon, and this, working Rapid Creek's the first time I've really worked outside of that area. And so I found coming to Iowa City, there's a lot of group, I hear a lot of the same names of people who own restaurants.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what they are, but I hear that name, I hear this name,
Yep.
and it seems to be 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 places are owned. And are prominent and are good restaurants, but they're owned by one group.
Yeah. So,
Whereas-
and that's actually really kind of like Des Moines as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
bigger groups.
Bigger groups.
Yeah.
Whereas it feels like Cedar Rapids is much more individuals.
Yeah. And we,
I mean, it's like there's Cobble Hill and Caucho's like the only real outside of maybe like a Riley's Cafe or something that's owned by several
that's the
people.
only other real
Yeah.
restaurant
or
group.
the Frog, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a couple, but
Yeah.
not really.
But yeah, and and one of the things that we really wanted when we were looking for a location is we wanted a pedestrian experience. We wanted to be in a place
Right.
that people would
That's
be
great.
able to walk here and there, and so we just
There's not a lot of that in Cedar
No,
Rapids.
I mean,
That's one benefit that Iowa City has for sure.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of pedestrian activity.
Yeah, I mean, when Andy opened Cobble, I thought to myself, no one's going to walk past that place. And he has built that. I mean, they both built that, Carrie and he, but it's still not a real pedestrian
Right,
feel
right.
downtown.
No.
Whereas I think Czech Village could be one of those first
Yeah.
renewal of that in Cedar Rapids.
I mean, walking around the Czech Village, and like Phoebe said, the potential was just, to us, so immense because it almost felt like you were transported to a neighborhood in Chicago or a neighborhood in
And there's
Denver
housing.
or
I
New
mean,
York,
there is
know?
the new housing, right, in the area, like down by New Beau's, not too far.
Sure. Well, so that's another, as far as some challenges that the neighborhood has provided is, and I think this was a little more common in the beginning when people didn't really know us or know what we did, or they hadn't been there. But for some reason, we're separated from Czech Village is separated from New Beau by a bridge. It's
Right.
we're really
That's
not
it.
that, really not that
Yeah.
far. And some people were like, "Oh man, that's just too far."
I remember hearing that from people too, and I thought, what do you mean it's too far?
It's like
You
right,
can
it's
walk.
right
You can
Yeah.
literally walk.
Yeah.
It's right
Yeah.
there.
And then another thing is that I think so many people maybe received a little misinformation. And I think that we are partially to blame here, but that we serve like Czech food. And,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
we don't
Because
serve
it's Czech Village,
food.
yeah.
I mean, like we take a little bit of influence
Yeah.
for sure, but like you're not going to come and
Yeah.
get like authentic
like,
old
stuffed cabbage and
world-
goulash.
Yeah, necessarily. Yeah,
it's like-
right.
Well,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know, and-
We're like Prague Czech food, which
Yeah.
Prague doesn't
Yeah,
really
we're-
do
right,
Czech food.
right.
Yeah, and I mean that's somewhat perpetuated also by the name
Yeah.
Rodina, which means family in Czech or homeland in
in
Russia.
Czech.
Yeah. And
Well, that was your first mistake.
well,
Idiots.
And we always knew that we wanted to have the name be associated with the area that we were.
Sure. Yep.
And we really wanted to move in and become a part of the Cedar Rapids community and celebrate Cedar Rapids culture. And one of the easiest ways that we thought to be able to do that was to have the name be an homage to the culture of Cedar Rapids, which is Czech.
Yeah.
But it's definitely provided some
It's a
challenges.
little bit
I'm sure
of,
it has.
A little
I'm sure
bit
it
of
has.
backfire there.
So, talking about the restaurant specifically, can you talk a little bit about your food and your service feel? Like what you're aiming for? What were your early conversations about that?
Sure.
Yeah. So when we moved back, we knew that there was a couple things that we wanted to accomplish with the restaurant. We knew we wanted to be simple food that was sourced locally, and we knew that we wanted to do family style service. And its core, I knew that I always wanted the heart of the menu to be the roasted chicken, because to me that is it's everything. It's home.
Right.
It's so much of why I do what I do is because of the meals that I grew up with as a child, and the chicken was always such an important image for us.
Yeah.
And especially growing up with two brothers, early on in my, parents' career, it's like when we got a whole chicken, it was a big deal.
Right, yeah.
It was like a really big deal. So when we moved back, we knew that. And then as everything started to formulate, and especially coming into the Czech Village, we wanted to take inspiration from Czech and European flavors. So we started really focusing on pulling recipes from that, pulling flavors from that, using spices that maybe I was really not that.
Right.
It's not that I wasn't familiar with, but they just weren't necessarily
What you were drawn to?
Yeah.
Organically,
Which was really, really fun at the beginning because and this, you get in that cycle of these are the things that I like to use.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with
Sure.
this. And then having to break outside of that, it almost opens a whole new, volume.
Yeah, always does.
And so when we opened, that's what it was. It was family style, simple service, and we can touch on this later, but it is so different now post COVID or during COVID.
Yeah, we're going to get into COVID, don't worry.
What, wait, really? Is that relevant?
And then Phoebe can touch on the service stuff.
Yeah.
Because can I just tell people, so basically, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Sam runs the kitchen, Phoebe runs the floor.
Yes.
And I got to say, they both, it feels like such a perfect blend. It's like one person running it because it feels like the food and the service they really go well together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was actually really important to us, within our own culture that would, we believe in, Sam and I living and breathing one thing and then passing that on to our staff, passing that on to our purveyors, and then the guests feeling that as well. And a lot of that comes to like that family style experience, welcoming people into your home and making them feel comfortable. And we truly believe that that's what hospitality is. So as far as like where our culture stems, and I think where a lot of that like marriage of the food and the service comes from is there is zero animosity or separation between the front and back of house.
Yeah, because I've been in before, and I forget the guy's name who we did a benefit at y'all's place with a bunch of people, and one of the cooks, I came back a few months later and he was behind the bar.
Oh yeah, Lenny.
Yeah. And so there's kind of a mix there.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. I think that's so important to us for our staff and for the guests to feel that.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier to get your staff to really buy into the concept if they feel like they can be heard and be respected, and then they really want to learn and be better. So as far as service goes, we wanted to keep with that kind of comfortability. We wanted to be polished and refined, but not hoity-toity.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think
It's hard to be fancy and comfortable at the same time.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah, and I
it's a real
don't
fine-
I don't know if we're
fine line.
achieving that, but we're trying.
Yeah.
Well, and in the grand scheme, when we opened, we wanted to be the benchmark of what a normal just dining experience could be.
Sure.
And we gauge ourselves on the criteria that we learned in, these bigger cities. And bringing that here, I think that people tend to believe that our experience is a little bit more elevated than it actually is when you have the perspective.
Which is okay.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
But that in itself has also provided some challenges.
Well, what I think, to be honest with you, is I think people expect, how do I say this? People expect an elevated experience because it's more individual and organic, and people think that might be the way a restaurant of your stature and of your style is going to go.
Yes.
But when you eat there, it's definitely not like any other restaurant in the area. I mean, the food that comes out is obviously not ego driven. It's not chef driven in terms of, how tall can I make this, or how many garnishes can I put on this? It's food that you could make at home pretty easily if you know how to cook. But it's such a great space to do it in, and it's delicious. Did you ever see other restaurants in Cedar Rapids and go, should we try to be like that? Or did you always feel like
all the time?
You're just going to be yourself?
All the time. I mean, there's so many times where it's like, man, it would just be so much easier to just, and this is no knock to anybody else.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's just trying to hustle.
Yeah.
I totally get it. But man, it would be really nice to just source everything from Cisco and serve burgers and sandwiches and fried pork tenderloins, which I eat those things, so I totally get it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like, we really thrive and drive ourselves on the fact that we are a restaurant that really tries to support our neighbors.
Yeah.
And that's, our farmers and our ranchers.
Yeah. But not even that. I guess what I'm talking about is there are restaurants in Cedar Rapids that you could see the entrees on a plate and know that's Cedar Rapids.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like fancy quote unquote restaurants, right? And you're like, what year is it? You don't really get where that comes from. Did you ever feel like you had to fit into something, or did you never have that push?
Yes, legitimately. And
like, this isn't fancy enough, or this doesn't have enough stuff on it.
Yes, 100%. And I think that we were entrenched in our views, our food, the way we were doing everything, and we were ready to go at it forever.
Right.
And then COVID hit, and the reality set that is we had to adapt our business, and if we didn't adapt our business, we were gonna disappear.
Right.
And I think that in itself maybe made us had to really reflect on, okay, what is it that Cedar Rapids really wants? But even in that moment, I think that it made us even more true to who we are, because it was, if that is what you want, I'm not going to give you that, but I'm going to give you what I think you should have.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean that we've really, in some sense, we've really had to scale some stuff back.
Yeah.
We also didn't really think that family style service was going to be met with such a
we've run into that here too, because you guys know a lot of what we like to do is serve big meals and people share it, and it's like, shit,
some people
this is bad timing for that.
It's a huge turn off. I mean, even before I think the pandemic, some people are like, no, this is my meal and I want my own thing.
And we've had to fight that as well. When we first opened, when we were building the dining room, I said, let's have two big family style tables. And it just makes sense. And we do fill those up because we get a lot of big tops, but at the same time, you do get twos and twos and twos, and they end up talking to each other. Yeah, I'm talking pre-COVID, of course.
You kind
at
of
this point,
have to convince them that it's a good idea. It's like, no, you're gonna like this.
And trying to convince people that you by yourself don't need to order a half chicken.
Yeah, you can.
You can, but you don't It's a lot bigger than what you think.
Yeah. So let's talk about COVID. So March 14th or whatever, restaurants shut down. What was your first move?
Unfortunately, it was furloughing our whole staff. We had already,
as everybody had to.
So the Monday before it all happened, we had a meeting, like our board meeting, if you will, and discussed what this was going to do to us and what the plan of action was. And before restaurants were officially shut down, Sam and I decided we're going to furlough our whole staff. It's just going to be you and I. We're just going to be doing takeout. Like whatever happens, we're closing our dining room. Right. And then the next day they closed anyway. And so we had already sent that email out to our staff, and was like, you need to, if you qualify, you need to file for unemployment and, you know, take care of yourself. If you find another job, great. Yeah. Like, I totally get it. It sucked. Yeah. It was the worst.
Right. Well, and especially we really try to drive home that we are a family at that restaurant. Of course, yeah. And that was the only way that we could guarantee that you were going to be able to pay your bills.
Yeah. I was like, I can't pay you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way.
I can't do it.
Yeah. So what were some of your business strategies moving forward? I mean, I know it's been 9 months or so that we're all in this, and sadly, it doesn't seem to be going away very quickly. Things be getting worse. Yeah. But what has stuck? You know, we're all just kind of throwing things at the wall and see what stays. What has been? I know there's no magic bullet. There's not for anybody. You know, I mean, business is not going to be what it was pre. But what is it now that's working, or what did you go through in terms of trying to make work?
Well, while everything was still mandated closures, which I think was like through mid-May or so, so where we were only able to do carry out, we tried a number of things. We tried the take and bake thing in addition to our carry out menu. We added on a corner store, which is something that I think Sam and I always maybe wanted to do as like another business venture one day.
Yeah, let's hear more about that, because I remember seeing that originally for you guys and thought, oh, that's a great idea. And now I see it a lot of places. We're even doing something like that. But you guys were the first I saw.
I mean, we had kind of seen it a little bit in some bigger cities, some places that were using, you know, their locally sourced things or their, you know, specialty goods to create a sort of small scale shopping experience for people who maybe weren't as comfortable going to like the big, you know, the big ticket stores. And it was a way for us to continue to support our purveyors while trying something new and hoping to bring in a little bit more business. So it was interesting because we were juggling carry out orders, and then people would place these corner store orders over the phone. And we had our whole like selection on our website. So then we'd have to like, you know, gather everything and make sure if it was cold, it was cold until they got there, and blah, blah, blah.
Like, what does corner store mean? Like lemons or like toilet paper? Like, what do you sell?
All of the above.
Well, and I think that when it first hit too, you know, we were also reflecting on, holy shit, we have 2,500 square feet that isn't being utilized. What can we do now to utilize some of this space? And some of it was also, oh my God, I have a walk-in full of product.
Right.
What am I going to do? And so the first initial steps of the corner store was essentially anything and everything that we have in house. Let's just
it's for sale.
It's for sale. Yeah. I mean, we took down back stock of our bar equipment.
Yeah.
Really? Like glassware, we just strainers, whatever.
You know, and then you know, a huge, and Phoebe kind of talked about it, is I remember in those first couple weeks after the first mandates, having several conversations with our purveyors that we hold really true to us, and them saying, oh shit, we are also totally screwed.
Right.
And so the corner store was a means for us to get money in the system. Let's just keep money
kind of flow.
Just flowing. Yep. And, you know, and markup on retail is so much different. And so for us, we were able to move more product for them, even though we necessarily weren't making as much, but it didn't matter, because it's like, I mean, this has rattled our industry.
Right.
And you see all the local food systems in Iowa were so strong, and then all of a sudden it just got so shaken, and we wanted to do whatever we could to kind of maintain the people that had been behind us.
Right.
And in the 9 months, we have really started to figure out what is it that people actually want to buy at that corner store. And we've really evolved that to be significantly less produce and more specialty.
Mm-hmm.
And
At the end of the day, though, if somebody comes in and is like, I have to have these leeks, I'm like, sure, they're
Sure.
for sale.
Great,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
for sale.
Right.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
When we first started the corner store, we basically took our entire back dining room and we turned it into a literal corner store. And since dining rooms have opened back up, we've kind of compressed it. We've worked with my brother to make something that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing and something to where if you had never heard of Rodina and you had never been in there and you walked in, that would feel like it was always supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. Whereas the first couple renditions of the corner store, you'd walk in and be like, what the heck?
Why is there a pile of lettuce?
Yeah,
in
why?
here?
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then after the corner store, I would say one of the most prominent programs that we started that really helped us through the first push of this was a program called Feed the Frontline.
Okay.
And Feed the Frontline was a program that we started that allowed individuals to buy meals for frontline hospital workers. And this kind of came about, one, because my father works in healthcare, and so that is always, there's always that kind of conversation in the back of my mind because of what my dad does. But man, we were just looking around and we saw our community feeling helpless.
Yeah.
And we had talked to people and they just wanted to help and they wanted to feel like they could do something when they were being told not to go out and not to see people and not spread love. And also same with us. We felt helpless.
Yeah, sure.
And also we just wanted to cook. We wanted to do what we want, and so that was something that we started, and over about 3 months we were able to put out over 1,000 meals for frontline hospital workers at multiple, satellite locations, St. Luke's, Mercy, and we just really wanted these individuals to know that you're seen and your community is here for you. And, and I think, with the derecho too and the flood, when this community decides to come together and help, it's truly monumental.
Yeah.
And we wanted to give people an outlet to help.
Yeah.
And then since we've been able to seat the restaurant, we waited a little bit. I think we started like the after the first week of June. But we added something to the menu called the chef's tasting.
Okay.
So anybody can come in anytime and their table as a whole can order the chef's tasting. Yeah. And it's usually, at minimum 5 courses, upwards of 7, 8 or so, where they don't have to order anything off the menu. Some things come from the menu, some things are, rattling around in Sam's brain. Right. And it's just kind of a fun way for people to feel like they're doing something special for themselves and really put their faith in us, which is really cool. And it's been really interesting to see how many people are interested in this, even though I know that there are certainly some people that are strapped for cash at this time.
And to kind of backtrack on that, when the closures happened and we had to go to takeout only, we had to readapt our menu to fit an a la carte individual style.
Right.
Before that, it was all family style.
Yeah.
The way that the menu was laid out, everything was built around the idea that you and a group of people were going to share a meal.
Yeah.
Well, we had to recreate that menu, 1, for individual, but 2, the things had to travel well because individuals are coming to pick this up. And so that really caused us to have to completely, and this touches on what you were kind of bringing up earlier, where we really had to look out and say, okay, what is it that Cedar Rapids wants?
Right.
Because at this point, now more than ever, we have to put aside our ego, our expectations, what we wanted, because we just have to survive.
Yeah, it's a hustle.
And so we kind of had to do that. And then the chef's tasting also came about because when we first opened, we were doing like 1 table a night.
Right.
Because we just wanted to do that 1 table a night. And then we started to grow to 2 or 3 and, to where we could feel comfortable. And that chef's tasting was also just a means to keep the momentum going in the kitchen and that drive, because as you know, when it's slow, complacency hits. And when complacency hits, you see all the standards kind of fall. And I wanted to feel that fire of, oh my God, there's so much to do and I don't have enough time. Because that's what I feel drives so much of us.
Yeah.
And that chef's tasting is something that if you would have asked me day one of Rodina if we would have done it, I would have said
No
over
way.
my dead body.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're confronted with over my dead body, or I'm truly going to lose my business.
Yeah.
It was worth it to step outside, and who knows if it's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
But for now it is.
Yeah. It's hard to know what people want. I mean, I think everybody's doing the same thing in terms of, do I send this home hot? Do I send this home cold? It's conversations we have all the time. Is this going home hot? Are we heating this for people? Are they taking it home and reheating it? I mean, that conversation happens with everything on the menu. You know, we're right now trying to figure out what the winners, because everybody is. I mean, I think we especially, because we're out in the middle of kind of nowhere. The patio is big for us, and the orchards. Like, what's the next several months going to be like for us? Trying to build that thing and figure out what people want. Just like you said about Cedar Rapids, you know, what do people want? It's a difficult task. And I'm not sure that you can even answer it really well, you know.
No, and I mean, you know, like you said too, it's like we feel like since the closures have happened, we've been throwing everything we can at the wall.
Right.
We've been spitballing, and some things will work for a week, and then it just completely drops off, and we have to say, okay, that it was something that people got excited for then, and now we have to change it now.
Exactly.
And you know, and
it's hard.
It's, you know, and we even saw once patio season started and we were able to dine again, our take and bake and our carry out went to basically none.
Right.
And now that it's getting colder, that's coming back.
Yeah, that's how we are as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
And, you know, it's, you know, and maybe this was me being naive, but I really thought, my entire career, I thought the food industry was the one industry that would always
that in hospitals
be there and it would never take a hit. And this really rattled me for a while.
Yeah.
Just like, how do we accomplish this if we can't even have people in the restaurant?
Yeah, yeah. How did it affect you guys in terms of, you know, internal, emotionally? Was it hard?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a roller coaster. You know,
my drinking's gone up.
My drinking was up.
Let's just say that Phoebe's pregnant with her second child. First child is how old? 2?
He'll be 2 in December.
Otto, lovely name.
And then number 2, second boy is
do we have a name?
in December.
A
We
boy?
do. We're not announcing.
Not announcing it. You can announce it right here on the podcast.
The first place.
There is a chance they could have the same birthday.
I'm like
that'd be
crossing
cool.
my fingers. Like
Well, yeah, because you guys had this kid the first year of your restaurant, right?
He came a month before the restaurant.
A month
opened.
before.
Yeah, so
That's,
I mean,
you know, we haven't
Good-
even thrown
good
that in the
time-
mix,
good
right? In terms of
timing,
getting it
yeah.
open.
yeah,
Yes.
we had
We're good at this.
we had the first baby, and 3 weeks later, essentially, Phoebe was in the space with the baby doing training for the opening.
Yeah. Well, I remember going to the soft opening and everybody's handing around the infant. I'm like, damn, that's
Don't
early.
you miss that? Like being able to hand around an infant?
Yeah, to a stranger, can I hold your baby? Yeah, go ahead. Like, go for it. Not too much. No.
Not so
But I
much
mean,
now.
he's really grown. He's really grown up in that space, and you know, and that was before I knew that I wanted to open up a restaurant. I knew I wanted to open up my own business.
Right.
I wanted
Something.
I wanted something, and you know, asking how we've been through this. I mean, it's been excruciating. It's been up and downs, and the amount of conversations that we've had with our accountant that it's like, I don't know if we're going to see next month.
Sure.
You know, but
We're like, man, I don't think either of us are like quick to quit, but like sometimes
Right.
I just want to give up.
I mean, sometimes it's just tough, but you know,
You do have family in the area, which is amazingly lucky. I mean,
we
that's-
would be.
Yeah.
I don't know what we would do.
That's a
'Cause
crazy
we could-
addition
I
that
don't know
people
how
don't
we could
always
pay
have.
for childcare and do this.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there was a time where childcare wasn't a thing because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah.
well, and our
don't know how
parents
people
have been really monumental through getting through this, because we were moving away from Phoebe was, for the first little bit of Otto's life, Phoebe was the primary childcare individual and spending only some time at the restaurant. And that was kind of the life that we had. And then COVID hit and we had to let our entire staff go. And so we had to 100% rely on our parents for all of childcare because it was Phoebe and I in the space.
Yeah.
And it was like, we had to be there. And actually there was days where we brought Otto, and Otto was with us the entire time. So as we're running around trying to cook, trying to take to-go orders, the kid was there attached to us.
Right.
And it was just like, in some sense, we're lucky that we had that luxury.
Yeah.
We're lucky that we get to bring our kid to work. You know, there's
Yeah.
people that we know and friends and peers that didn't have that luxury.
Yeah, of course.
And they were confronted with, oh my God, my income is disappeared.
Yeah.
And I can't.
I mean, millions of Americans are dealing with
Yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I don't have the money for childcare, and so now I have to figure out how to come up with the money and figure out childcare, and so we that's something that we've been really lucky about.
Yeah.
And you know, and on the hardest days, I have to remind myself that nobody gets to tell me I don't get to bring my kid to work.
Right.
And
Right.
that is a real,
Right.
you know, that's been a that's been a beacon through this, because I mean, it's been so crazy, because any time that we feel like there is a certain momentum positively, something else happens to kind of bring us back down. And you know, before the derecho, which was a big pop, we had scheduled, and we had planned this really big event.
Bit big. As
Big,
as big
not
as you
right.
can.
as big as you can be. But when the Iowa State Fair got canceled,
Man,
that
saddest day of my
resonated with us.
I hate that. I love the fair.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever go?
I've never been.
Oh my God.
I know.
It's my favorite week of the year.
And so it's so important to people.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And so we decided, okay, we're going to do a state fair pop-up at Rodina.
Nice.
And we talked to our neighbor, and they were going to let us use some of their business space. And we had a clothes purveyor that was showing up, a really amazing woman.
I can't remember her name. Amia, Copper Alligator.
Copper
is her
Alligator. She
company.
has like a renovated bus that is basically like a moving boutique. So
Yep.
she was going to show up. We had gotten a cajachina, and we got a wood-fired grill,
whole pig.
and a whole pig,
Nice.
and we were going to do basically this fun day of state fair-esque food and activities. Dash Coffee Roasters was kind enough to lend us their custom-made Plinko board, and we
There
were
you
going to
go.
have games or whatever. And
Did it happen?
So this was the day, but it was July 3rd.
That
Was the event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
July 1st, a independent contractor laying electrical wire severed our plumbing.
Oh man.
And we
And-
didn't find out till the next day.
And we didn't find out till the next day.
The day before the
and
event.
That's intense.
We had Roto-Rooter come out, and they had to bring their camera. And then lo and behold, we figured out that our plumbing was severed, and we couldn't
They were
operate.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't.
Wow.
And
Can't use
so
bathrooms, can't wash hands, can't run hot water.
we lost.
Man, that's insult to injury
We
right
lost,
there.
Yes, like
we
that.
lost product. We lost labor.
Yeah.
And that was actually supposed to be essentially our coming back party of we're going to be sitting on the patio, or we're taking that was going to be kind of our reintroduction
minimal
into
indoor
the,
seating.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So that was like that was a really, really big blow to us, momentum and
That was July.
morale, and
Yeah.
and that was July, and then 4 or 5 weeks later the derecho hit.
Yeah.
And that was another like bah!
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's been a brutal.
we lost power for 9 days at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And we had to gut everything.
Yeah.
And even talking to our wine purveyors, because of how hot the building was, we lost a majority of all of our wine
Sure.
as well.
And
Yeah.
beer. Yep.
And beer.
beer,
And
yeah.
so that was another we're hanging on by
Yeah.
razor's edge,
Yeah.
and then you're
It's like,
telling
let's
us we're
hope
going to
insurance
lose.
Yeah.
really pulls through.
Yeah.
on this.
And
we're still in
so,
discussion.
with the nice fall weather, did people come back inside a little bit, and they were out walking
yeah,
around
honestly,
Czech Village?
September and October October was quite good for us.
Yeah, October is the best month.
Considering.
Yeah.
I think on average throughout the last 9 months since we've had to close, we're down probably 45%.
Mm-hmm.
October felt like we were down maybe 20. So that was
That was
really nice.
that was
And how many
really,
seats,
really nice.
like on a good day? Not now, but
Like
normally?
Cover wise. Oh, normally?
Yeah, no, normally. How many?
Like on a really good, there were a few would do over 100.
Yeah.
We had 75 seatable seats.
75 seats, yeah.
Not including the
occupancy.
patio.
Yeah.
Not including the patio.
On a Good Friday before, we would do 100, maybe plus. On a Good Friday now,
100.
we do like 30.
Yeah. I think that's everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
And we're ecstatic to do 30.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Well, and it's, and as you know, it's like before you would roll into a weekend and you're like, great, I got 65 on the books. This is
you're
awesome.
ready to go. You're loaded.
I have 18 on the books, and I'm like, yay! This is great.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been, like we said, we had to furlough our entire staff, and when we had to furlough everybody, we had 19 staff members, and now we're at about 8.
Mm-hmm. 10, including
10.
We finally Sam and I put ourselves on the payroll.
Okay, way to go.
Yeah. That's a must.
So, not to bury the lead, but one of the reasons I really wanted you guys out here was because of the amazing, change gears, the amazing energy I see in you guys in terms of charity and doing benefits and hosting events at your place. I've been here since 2000, and at the Lincoln, it was really tough for me to find time to host things like that. Rapid Creek Cidery is great, but also it's a big machine, and it's tough to do as well. And one of my goals was always to kind of build a chef community in a restaurant, like industry community. And I see you guys doing a lot of that. And, I can't count that number of times in the past few years when you guys have sent me an email saying, you want to be part of this event? And I found time once or twice, but, you seem to be doing it often. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of, was that an initial thought? Did you always want to do that? And how do you find the damn time to do it on top of everything else?
So the first year of operation, we consistently did an event about once a month.
And not necessarily always like charity based. We just wanted to have something that
host
was
something
out of the ordinary. We did a couple wine dinners too.
Yeah.
Things like that.
For us, I think we always wanted to have a space where we could collaborate with individuals, because when you get to the position where you are kind of on top, there's this sense of learning that kind of takes a back seat, because you're so much of your focus is having to lead the team. And these collaborations, at least for us, gives us the ability to kind of step aside and see what other people are doing. And just like you said, like, one of the biggest things that we wanted to do was become a part of the community. And one of the aspects to do that is to humble yourself and share your space with other people to see what they're doing. And
but you can do that and make money off it.
Yes,
but I find you guys do that a lot and give it away.
So sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes,
and that's impressive to me.
The one that you were able to be a part of was the Feed Iowa First Dinner,
right,
which we had actually helped a friend do the year prior, before we had Rodina, before we had
Andrew Hoffman.
Before we had the space. Yeah. So a local farmer who's amazing guys,
great guy,
grows great produce and has a lot of really cool connections. But he really found that Feed Iowa First was such a really cool nonprofit and something that he wanted to raise some funds for. So we helped him put on this dinner. So in 2018, it was hosted at the Quarter Barrel in Cedar Rapids, which is a place he had previously worked. And basically we just got a bunch of chefs together and we're like, here's your course. You're paired with a drink maker and a chef and a farm. And so it was just a fun collaboration. And then basically we made sure that the chefs, beverage makers, and farmers were covered as far as product. And then everything else, they donated their time. Everything else proceed wise was directly to Feed Iowa First. And I was like, we were also said, if you want to donate your payout to Feed Iowa First,
right? Sure.
And I think that the charity aspect, it's like, we as chefs and we as, front of house managers and, we just in the industry, I think we have a bigger voice than what people really know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see a group of individuals who are all, on the top of their game, humbling themselves to come together to work towards a common goal, it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that resonates with people.
Mm-hmm.
And the hope is that people see that and they're like, well, if they can do it, we can do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then also adding the charitable aspect of it, it almost allows the chefs and everybody a part of it, and the bartenders, to leave their ego at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? At the end of the day, this is all to benefit these other people. Why do you need to puff out? If,
Yeah, exactly.
If this is this, and then, and also selfishly for us, it widens our network and it widens our community, and that we always wanted to give.
Right.
And that's been. That's
Well, you guys are
It
great
always feels like we can do more.
Yeah, it always feels
But
like we
also,
can.
so I think something that a lot of people who aren't in the industry don't realize is that restaurant workers, restaurant owners are not really well paid, but we desperately want to be part of our
People
community.
got to know that by now, right? We say it all day, right?
But we, I think a lot of us so desperately want to be a part of our community and support them and be charitable. But so I mean, it's like that's why it's like, here's your ticket price. You pay the money. We'll put on this cool thing. Yeah. So it's like it's kind of in the hands of them as well as community members.
Yeah.
And it's been unfortunate that we really haven't been able to further that this year, and the state fair pop-up was one of those means to try to do that, because we had a charity, we were going to be donating to the African American Museum for that, which we were really bummed about losing that opportunity, and we really hope that we get an opportunity to do a collaboration with them again in the future. Especially because they are, they're neighbors, and we've done stuff with the Czech Museum, and I will actually always remember one of the pop-ups that we did that I was the most excited about, March 8th, and I'll always remember it because March 8th was the day that Johnson County had its first reported COVID case. And that pop-up was actually my former co-chef and business partner flew out from Denver, and he did a traditional Chinese BBQ dinner, and he's actually first generation Chinese American. And for us, it was an immense experience, because this is somebody that I had worked with for 4 years in Denver. We were co-chefs for 2.5 years, somebody who was very true to my heart, and being able to welcome him into our space and do this dinner, we were so ecstatic, and we were on top of the world. And then I remember the dinner concluding, and we got the note, we got the ping that it was like, and then that next week is when everything when everything changed. And we've talked to some people about doing other, actually we have a collaboration, an event coming up next Tuesday with Edible Outdoors, where we are doing a joint hunting, and it's all virtual, but hunting or talk about ducks, and then we're doing a cooking demonstration about cooking duck, and then a majority of the proceeds go to Edible Outdoors, which is a nonprofit that focuses on giving people hands-on experiences with things like hunting, foraging, fishing, outdoor stuff.
That's great.
Close ties with like the DNR.
Yeah,
we have found to try to interject that back in, but like for me, it's such a great opportunity to kind of put the restaurant aside and do a different style of cuisine.
Sure.
I don't have to follow the rubric of Rodina when we're doing this. We can do something else.
Yeah.
So I was always really excited to do that kind of stuff.
What do you think the winter's gonna be like for you guys? Because it's gonna be rough for everybody. What do you guys have any idea how business is gonna be when there's 1.5 feet of snow on your sidewalk?
I mean, we're planning on ramping up the take and bake thing again, the carry out thing. We're trying with the feed the frontline. I think everybody's got kind of COVID fatigue, is what they call it.
For sure.
So it's hard. I don't blame, I would never blame anyone for not
Yeah.
wanting to do something like that. It's just
Yeah.
not something, people don't want to think about it anymore.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly,
want to
right.
think about it anymore.
Right.
Well, and we haven't even announced this yet,
Oh,
but
yeah.
the podcast would be a great time
Pollinate
to
it
announce
up.
it.
There we go.
So we have actually, for the last bit, been working on our hopeful second concept, and
nice.
we've done a couple pop-ups already. But
You guys were doing a burger thing for a while, weren't
yeah,
you?
so that's Scherburger. So the month of January, we are actually doing a month-long takeover of Scherburger to really test the concept, to really test the brand, to really put those flavors out there, to
In the Rodina space.
in the Rodina space. To
So Rodina will take a month off.
so
Nice.
Rodina would take a month off in order for us to put this concept in there, and it's kind of a dual purpose. One is that we really believe in this other concept, and we're really excited about it because it allows us to be off the wall and fun. But then also what we hope is that people hear that Rodina is off for a month, and so they're going to try to rush to get in there in December, and then February coming into Valentine's Day will also have a push for that.
Valentine's Day.
Who knows what the
Yeah.
hell this is all going to
Yeah.
look like.
We'll talk,
It's going to be a hell of Valentine's Day.
Like New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's Eve.
Dude, and that's and,
Lot of hugs.
talking
Lots of
about
them.
winter. We have now been talking about what does New Year's look like for the last 6 months,
Right.
because what does it look like?
Yeah.
You know, before New Year's was the epitome of celebration, and we want boisterous.
Pack
We
the
want
Yeah.
pack the place, screw
Everybody's-
it,
yeah.
overseat. Like,
Yeah.
and how do we?
No one knows.
How do we still provide an experience that people come in and they're like, God, this is
I feel
this is
safe.
awesome."
I
No one
feel
knows.
like I'm celebrating.
Yeah.
You know, with it being 2020 and leading into 2021, I think 40s and airplane shooters. That's
40? Oh, I
Like a malt liquor.
Yeah.
But I think in reality, what we are already bracing for is to really reignite the carry-out business and the take and bake options. We have really moved in to try to. We've been working on getting some recipes for things that are shelf stable, so that we can potentially push our brand beyond our walls. And I think that's actually been one of the most prominent discussions of not just us, but the individuals and peers that we have across the country, which is how do you expand your business beyond these walls, and how do you up your amount of income coming in without butts and seats?
Yeah.
And I think you guys have
you
actually
guys have
done
done a
an
phenomenal
amazing job with
We're
that.
all trying to do it.
And and that's the discussion of how do we accomplish that. And we've even talked about further limiting our seating and upping the exclusivity, not necessarily the dollar amount, but to make sure that people really do feel safe when they're coming in a space.
Sure.
Because the reality is, whether people want to admit it or not, it's getting bad.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
we have such a small staff, like we can't
Yeah.
risk a bunch of us falling ill
Right.
either, then
I mean,
we
that would be-
shut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that the sentiment for so many people this year has been, okay, profitability is out the window. We're not going to make profit this year.
Just don't die.
Just don't die.
Don't die.
Yeah.
Basically,
Just limp
yeah.
limp
I mean,
through 2020 in hopes that 2021 is going to do it.
Every bill paid is a little bit of a
I'm
celebration.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and the kind of morbid thing about it is that the winter is going to kill a lot of restaurants.
Yeah.
Not just here, but nationally.
Nationally,
yeah.
for
And
sure.
so, one of the things that we've been trying to work with the Iowa government and other officials and other organizations nationally to try to lobby for relief for the restaurant industry. Because, and I think that this is actually one of the unique things about COVID is that never before has there really been a spotlight on the restaurant industry like there is now, as far as we are one of the largest private sector's employers in the country.
Right.
11 million of us.
Right.
And that's just active employees, not the suppliers, not the drivers.
And
not
that's
the,
just independent restaurants.
and that's just
Not even
independent
talking
Not the
about
supply
big-
chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and you know, like Phoebe touched on, is that we tend to be lower income individuals, and so there is an attack right now on the lower income economy driving force of this country.
Right.
And that's really scary. It's not just a restaurant disappearing. You are this isn't. The workforce is disappearing.
It's a restaurant, which is a neighborhood, which is a city.
Yes, exactly. And so we we had the ability to have a luncheon with Governor Kim Reynolds. We've met with Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer multiple times.
We met with some representatives
From Joni Ernst and Grassley. And we've been working with a organization called the Independent Restaurant Coalition, which is a national organization just trying to get our voice out there. And it's not, and the sentiment that we keep trying to express to all these people that we sit with, it's not just about us.
Right.
It's about everybody.
Yeah.
There's so many people. And
Right.
I think so many politicians are resistant of industry specific relief.
Sure.
And then of course you look at the airline industry.
Yeah, right,
who's gotten
right.
a couple relief packages.
Yeah, there is that.
And they employ far fewer people.
Yeah.
Again, they're very economy,
Sure.
driven, but so are we.
Yeah. Well, I just in conclusion, you guys are some of the most genuine, great people that I've had the opportunity to deal with here in Iowa. So it's really great to have you guys here today, and I really, thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah, thanks.
It's nice to hear the perspective of someone who's just recently gotten into it. Thank you a lot for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for having us.
And then I just want to say thanks for watching Pollinate, everybody, and join our YouTube channel when you can, please. We catch all these episodes, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.